Hello and welcome to our channel, Hourglass of Wine. As I have mentioned in previous videos, my partner Andrea and I are both WSET III graduates, and one of the chapters that we spent a lot of time studying and really trying to just wrap our heads around was that of Germany. So much so that we even spent our summer vacation last year road tripping through as many German wine regions as possible. Thankfully, we got lots of footage to share with you today, and as for us, seeing and experiencing really helps hone in with the studying, so we thought it would be nice to share some of that with you today. So without further ado, let's have a look at what WSET thinks you need to know about German wines for a level 3 exam. We are going to be breaking this chapter of Germany into two parts. Today we are going to cover just the first part, geography, grapes, and laws, and then part 2, which will be released another day, we are going to cover the regions. So be sure to subscribe and stay up to date when we release part 2. But first off, let's get started. Geography and climate. The generally rectangular country of Germany sits sandwiched between the Atlantic Ocean in the north and a whole host of border countries along the east, west, and south. The part that is going to interest us, however, will be a relatively small section along the southern area. This is the zone best adapted for viticulture. There are wine-growing areas further north, but they will not be discussed in WSET III. In this southerly strip of the country, Germany, we are going to find generally cool and continental climate weather. The patterns will vary a lot from year to year, but in general, we are going to see summers that are wet and autumns that show less rainfall than their summers. Our growing season is going to be long and cool, which helps to maintain acidity while allowing good sugar development. After all, this is crucial in Germany, as we will see a lot of German wine laws that actually have classifications dependent upon the sugar levels at harvest. For this reason, some vineyards may be harvested in stages. This will allow for multiple levels of sugar to be harvested from one single vineyard. Another important aspect of the cool climate that we see is vineyard placement. In the coolest and rainiest spots, we are going to see a lot of vineyards will take advantage of moderating factors such as steep slopes along rivers. However, these steep slopes, like the steepest in Europe at Calmont in the Moselle region, are difficult to work. They require head-trained vines that are individually staked and a lot of intense manual labor. Grape varieties. If you remember one grape from Germany, you need to remember Riesling. It is the most planted variety in Germany, and it is here in its homeland that Riesling can showcase its true versatility. Rieslings will run the gamut from totally dry, no residual sugar, to sweet, thick, and luscious. Our aromas will go from light green apple florals to rich, dried fruits, peaches, and sometimes even the famous petrol aromas. We will see a lot of variation between regions, with Riesling presenting very differently in the cooler regions like the Moselle to the warmer regions like Baden. Müller-Thurgau is our second most popular white grape in Germany. Also sometimes called Rivener, it is a crossing between Madeleine Royale and Riesling. A bit in decline, it usually produces floral and fruity wines, but it will never have the same level of intensity or acidity as Riesling can produce. Müller-Thurgau wines are generally not looked at as high quality, and the medium sweet style that one usually finds the Müller-Thurgau vinified as is not as popular as it once was. When planted in the right place, Silvaner can be a surprising find, especially in places like Franken, where it is the dominant grape. We will find it to be fruitier than your average Riesling, with earthy undertones and not too much acidity. We also see some Pinots growing in Germany, with Pinot Gris and Pinot Blanc being called Grauburgunder and Weissburgunder respectively. For our first mentioned red wine as well, we are going to see Pinot Noir, here called Spätburgunder, coming in as one of the top black grapes in Germany. The best versions of Pinot Noir or Spätburgunder in Germany will come from the slightly warmer areas of the country around Pfalz and Baden. Other black grapes that we will see are Dornfelder, often vinified as a half-sweet wine, or Halbtrocken or Feinherb. It will be light in flavor and deeply colored. Honorable mentions we see are Meunier, Portugieser, and Trollinger, although most of these wines are not exported and will stay exclusively in the German market. Wine Law, Part 1. Qualitatswein, Pradikatswein, and sweetness levels. Most German wines fall under an appellation or a denomination. When a wine does not fall under these designations, we can call it a Landwein or a Deutscher wine. But regarding denominations and appellations, of the denominations, appellations, PDOs in Germany, the most broad is Qualitatswein, where the grapes must come from one of 13 designated regions, and the region must be listed as such on the label. These wines can range from dry to medium sweet. Following a step up the pyramid, within the Qualitatswein, we are going to find Pradikatswein. These wines are defined by sugar or must weights at the time of harvest, with the minimum amount rising as we go up the scale. There will be a total of 6 levels to the Pradikats system. Our first level will be Cabinet. While cabinet wines have the lowest sugar level requirements, they will be made dry, but sometimes in a medium sweet style as well. However, to achieve that medium sweet style, a Sous Reserve of unfermented grape juice might be added for a boost, or a winemaker may halt fermentation before it's completed to leave some residual sugars. Cabinet wines will be the lightest bodied, have the most fresh acidity, and lower alcohol that will range from 8 to sometimes 12%. Spätlese. In general, Spätlese wines will be more than cabinet wines. More intense, more ripe, fuller body. They can range from dry to medium sweet as well, but they will often have riper fruit characteristics than cabinet wines. Auslese. Our last category that can contain dry wines. Auslese wines can range from dry to sweet. Although, on a personal note, I will say, when we were in Germany, we found it quite difficult to find a dry Auslese. The sweet or medium ones were much more common. In general, Auslese wines will be richer and fuller bodied compared to Spätlese. Some might even have botrytis characteristics, although that's not totally common. As Auslese wines are based upon a harvest of specifically picked bunches of grapes that will have a super ripe and higher sugar content than Spätlese, this helps with that body and that richness. Beeren Auslese and Trockenbeeren Auslese. For these wines, sometimes also referred to as BA and TBA respectively, noble rot is often a contributing factor. In fact, for TBAs, we have to have noble rot. Otherwise, there just simply is not enough sugar to meet the must requirements. BA wines can technically sometimes arrive at the required sugar levels without botrytis. However, it is still typical to see noble rot in these wines. Because of the general finickiness of noble rot, these wines may not be made every year, or they might come in at lower quantities than usual. The flavors for BAs and TBAs will be typical of noble rot wines, candied fruit, honey, etc., and they will be very sweet and relatively low alcohol. Eiswein. As the name suggests, these wines are always sweet and made by frozen grapes. Not always possible with varying weather conditions, producers will strive with these wines to bring forward varietal purity. So unlike the BA and TBAs where we want the noble rot characteristics, these ice vines will have no noble rot and instead allow the pure fruit flavors to dominate, meaning they will often be made in a protective winemaking style as well. So where a Pradikats level allows for variation of sweetness, for example in Auslese, which can be from dry to sweet, you will sometimes, but not always, see other terms used to give an idea of the level of sweetness. These are words like trocken, dry, and halbtrocken, half dry or medium sweet. As well, there is an unofficial word, feinherb, that is often used in place of halbtrocken in order to contradict the negative stigma that surrounds the once low-quality halbtrocken wines. Wine Law Part 2. Geographic mentions, VDPs, and GGs. Okay, we are now moving away from these sweetness categorizations, and we are going to find some more geographically inclined mentions. Since 2021, wineries have been able to adhere to a new geographical hierarchy, with adhesion becoming mandatory from the 2026 harvest forward. In these new rules, Qualitatswein, including Pradikatswein, can be labeled as from a specific wine-growing region, village, and or even a single vineyard. Now, dry wines that come from a certain single vineyard in Germany can be classified and labeled as Erstgewachs or Großgewachs. sometimes seen as GG. These single vineyard sites are known to be some of the best in the country, and winemakers must follow strict rules to qualify for a GG classification. As well as we will see when we discuss individual German wine regions, each different zone will have a different rule as to which grapes can be used to make a GG wine. Some will only allow Riesling, while others will allow a myriad of varieties. To further confuse matters, in Germany we are also going to find VDP wineries, or, get ready for it, Verband Deutscher Pradikatsweingüter. That is a mouthful. A non-governmental wine growers association. It is based on consensus and therefore is parallel and not part of the national wine law system that I was describing earlier. A winery can choose to join and have their vineyards listed as long as they follow the rigorous rules surrounding farming, growing, and winemaking. This is to ensure that the wineries that choose to place the association's logo of an eagle on their foil can only produce high-quality wines. Now, within this VDP system, single vineyards can also be classified as VDP Erstlage, or for the very best sites, VDP Grosslage. Dry wines that are made from a VDP Grosslage vineyard can also be called VDP Grossgewachs. And on the bottle will be represented by an eagle holding grape clusters and the letters GG being embossed into the glass bottle. All right, so there is part 1 of German wine. Be sure to subscribe to be notified when we release part 2. In the meantime, please leave a like below, and I will leave you with this video to keep studying for WSET Level 3. Good luck, and see you next time.